welcome our next presenter. Before inviting her, I would like to introduce her with you. This is Miss Christina Adams. She is an author, researcher, advisor, editor of Laguna Beach. She's from California, USA. Her expertise areas are camel uses, sustainability, camel dairy development and research, formal pastoralist herder challenges, autism spectrum, biological and nutritional factors in autism, writing and media. And she is the winner of the Dr. V. Kurian Award of Excellence in Dairy Farming Practices and Innovation. Welcome, Ms. Christina Adams.
Thank you very much. I'm really glad to be here. Can you?
Yes, I unshare my screen. Okay.
Okay, great. Now. Okay, thank you so much. I'll be sharing my screen in just a moment. First, I want to extend my appreciation for the kind introduction and just express how really awed I am at the amount of coordination and work that yourself and of course Dr. Arjuman and everyone else has put into this incredible endeavor. So thank you for doing that, and I'm going to share my screen in just a moment. So just briefly, I'll say that while this is the Summer Field School for Mountain Ecosystems and Resource Management, that does have, of course, a wide catch basin. So we'll be talking about a lot of the ecosystems today, which I'm sure you already have been. I myself happen to come from a bit of a mountain background. My people are from the Appalachian Mountain area of Virginia, which is also kind of a distinct area. And I actually have spent the summer there and just came back to California. So I am newly inspired to think about the mountains as well as the deserts and other regions that I think about regularly. So let me share my screen now. Okay, I think I'm up. Is that correct? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Visible. Yeah.
Okay, great. So my talk is tonight called, and morning for you, because it is 11 p.m. here in California, and morning in all different time zones in our gathering today. My talk right now is a global perspective on pastoralist value. I feel that many people are not aware at all of the pastoralist cultures and the heritage in a lot of different countries. And so I myself have had the experience of becoming aware of their great value. And I want to talk a little bit about that today and some of the challenges as well. So the Convention on Biological Diversity says that many endangered species are surviving simply in zoos and botanical gardens, and these kind of protective measures are not sustainable for our endangered species. Species and ecosystems need freedom to evolve in their natural conditions, and economic policies are needed to create financial resources for those who would otherwise damage the natural resources that are surrounding them, which they often do just to survive. So the world is facing multiple crises, as we all know, and we have about 10 years to act, according to some estimates. And traditional methods of living can help sustain the biodiverse life that we all really depend on, even though we may not be aware of that in our more industrialized societies today. Indigenous and tribal people help sustain these really important genetic legacies. Indigenous people, which are estimated at 4 to 5% of world population, live in regions that contain the majority of our world's biodiverse resources. And traditional healing can be a key to medicine. Pharmaceuticals are sourced from biodiverse plants and animals. And it's kind of amazing to me how almost no people that I know that use medicines, which is the vast majority of people at one point in time, are aware that pharmaceuticals actually come from plants and animals. There seems to be this divide between medicine and science versus the natural world. And so I would like to see a little more kind of synchronicity between those worlds. So these gene banks that are sustained in these areas where indigenous and tribal people and pastoral people live are really key to human and animal health. And not just because of pharmaceuticals, but because of a lot of things that are factors in our planet, which of course, a lot of environmental issues and all those kinds of things. Pastoral livestock uptakes appropriate nutrients and they process food directly. So it's less harmful processing and there's local sustainability and it increases soil health, which I know that other people have spoken about this and will continue to, but it really is something to be putting the message out for, because most people think animal meat and dairy equal bad, at least where I am in the United States. A lot of more progressive people are starting to think that. And it's something that I've been taking on recently to try to educate people that it is not one size fits all. Okay, where'd my cursor go? There we go. So pastoralists and rangelands are important to the world. 54% of the world is rangelands per the Rangelands Atlas database. Rangelands are home to many nomadic and pastoral livestock keepers who are often what's called underrated. This biodiverse resource for our world can be exploited or experience desertification if it's not managed properly. So this is me when I met the first person I ever met who was a nomad. And this is El Hadji Kumama. He is from Niger and his family has had camels for centuries. And his family also are renowned jewelers. So he's one of the great examples of how pastoralists can have multiple skills. And he often comes over to the United States, like some other Niger jewelry makers, and they sell their jewelry to many people in the United States and other places. And they do that regularly. And then they go home and keep their animals or camels. So it's one of those ways where they have used their ancient craft and skills to still make money in the modern world. So pastoralist traditions actually helped save my son. That's how I got into this whole area. I had met a man with a camel in California, and he happened to have Middle Eastern roots, but I didn't know that at the time. I was just at a children's book festival in California, and I saw a camel there, and I just went over to find out, why is it here if no children are riding this camel? My son had autism. So after I talked to him, I just heard that it was that the milk was thought to be non-allergenic and given to premature infants in the hospital in the Middle East. And that kind of sparked my idea that it might kind of help reboot my son's immune system, which was always connected to his autism symptoms. I'd already written one book about this called A Real Boy, and I had just turned my life over to trying to get into biology and that connection to autism spectrum disorders, which is increasingly well established now. So at that point in time, there was no place to get camel milk in America that I could find. So I had to fly in frozen Bedouin milk from the Middle East. And my son was, really having challenges at the time, but no one else had really known about that. Except I did find a publication later which confirmed I was on the right path. So nomadic people had known about camel milk's health benefits for centuries, but no one really had known that it would help autism until after I had my idea. As I said, I came across that one science publication. So I actually got it in, as you saw on the prior slide, those frozen bottles. And then this is my son. He was my own little clinical experiment. He was given a cup of camel milk with cereal at bedtime. The next morning, his symptoms were greatly improved. His skills leaped up overnight. It was actually very shocking. Said things like, "I love you, you do so much for me, you're really great." He could start crossing the parking lot alone instead of hanging on to him, which is something a lot of parents of autistic children have to do. His behavioral breakdown stopped, and it was absolutely astonishing. And it started to work systemically. The white bumps on his cheeks faded. He returned to public school. If you know anything about autism, I could go on about all the symptomology, but I do have other lectures for that if anyone ever needs that in the future. He was able to tolerate more foods. Overall, he had a 30% improvement in autism symptoms. And then I kept flying it in, and I got USDA federal permission, that's the United States Government Agricultural Authority, to import it for him. And so after I was able to find out that the milk was being made in America then by pastoral people, at that time, Amish people, I was able to get the milk from here. I gave it to my son, and it worked the same as the Middle Eastern milk, which was a very important key point. He was pretty much the first patient that I'd ever heard of that used camel milk from two places and showed it wasn't the breed, the feed, or the camel. It was the camel itself that was the delivery method for this amazing milk. So I wrote an article that went viral and kind of kicked off a lot of new interest in the camel milk globally. And then I was able to write a peer-reviewed scientific journal report, and that generated some scientific interest, and it's now been cited regularly. So just as an example quickly, we'll just touch on this so you can kind of learn about it briefly. Thousands and thousands of children now around the world are using camel milk for autism. But this is just a couple little things, little pictures right now quickly. I have just done a new documentary with the Dungar College Green Chemical Research Center of India with director Abdul Shahid. So this video is now available, but talks all about it. But these are some children. The one on the left was just in his own world. He was unable to really engage. He was deep into computers. And then later he was able, after the camel milk, to just engage much more greatly, and he was playing and things like that. The one on the right is quite dramatic in these photos even. He was 2.5 years old. He was unable to speak. He was smashing his head against all kinds of furniture and cabinets. There was nothing that really could be done for this child. You can see the bruises on his head, the pink inflammation around his eyes, the swollen lips, the dark circles, which are called kind of allergy shiners. And after the first ounce, his mother reported that his self-injurious behavior stopped. And then he language was flooding in, was her term. And he started getting a social smile and awareness, and his skin cleared up. 2 years later, look at him on the right. He's very glowing with a social smile child. So it transformed his health. So camels, because of reasons like this, led me to greater pastoral and nomadic awareness. So I've been to a lot of different places.
Ma'am, you are muted.
Oh.
Okay, now it's okay.
Okay, was I muted from the beginning?
No, ma'am, this time you are muted, only for a few seconds.
Oh, okay, so I was just muted briefly. Okay, got it.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. All right, so I've spoken to camelers from all over the world and introduced camel people just to others to build this network because my goal was always to get camel milk into the hands of anyone that wanted it. And then the more I learned about pastoralists and nomadic people, the more I became aware of just how valuable not only the camel is, but then their other animals and everything that they do for society and the environment. And I started writing about it too for different publications. So pastoralist products and knowledge are outside the mainstream generally. Why is that? Traditional livestock knowledge is held by rural cultures usually with very low visibility and sometimes credibility. People like to dismiss sometimes like, oh, those people, they're old fashioned or they don't know about this and that. They do not know what great knowledge generally people have had because that's kind of been lost. Lots of times people used to know, oh, certain cultures, they hold certain knowledge of things, but a lot of times now we're not aware of what our heritage is anymore in terms of the pastoralists that surround us in all the different countries. And so pastoralists and nomadic people, they're often on the move and are kind of not connected to settled areas sometimes if they're moving around. Some of them are very conservative and insular societies. And so sometimes people don't really know how to approach them. And the products, though, are now emerging, which is great. They do face steep odds of survival, and we need to increase pastoral and nomads' values to markets, society, and preserve their land access. And of course, a picture here that I have to accompany is from the Amish community. This one was in Pennsylvania. Amish people, for those who are not aware, they are kind of from a culture that came to the United States, I think around the 1600s, 1700s. and they from very conservative faith-based group, and they really don't go outside of their group. It's very insular, and they dress very traditionally, and they don't have a lot of technology. But they were the ones that started milking camels because it enables them to stay on their land and work with animals. And they consider hard work part of their faith and living with an old technology way. So I now know many Amish camel farmers, and this is milk, and this is camel kefir, which is fermented camel milk, and then the soap, and then they make yogurt and things like that too. So one great example of things that are changing now is the International Year of Camelids in 2024 is coming up soon. So you can look this up and see what all the initiatives are. In the interest of time tonight, we can't discuss all of them, but basically the goal is to increase consumptions of goods produced from camelids. And we know that they help contribute to the eradication of hunger, malnutrition. They help raise the empowerment of women. They help keep cultures that believe strongly in what they are doing as a spiritual and heritage practice vibrant and on the land. And that is going to that's challenging, but things are looking up in some places for camels. The International Camel Organization of Saudi Arabia is a relatively recent organization, and they are doing outreach and fostering awareness. And they've had camel symposiums. They've had one for my book, and they've had one for some other of my colleagues here. And so we'll see more from them. Also, there's World Milk Day, World Camel and Donkey Days, and all these things are chances to raise awareness on social media and perhaps even hold events in your areas. So the ways to increase pastoral and animal value and survival: science, human health, food, and then there's other things, crafts, textiles, things like that. This is actually artificial insemination happening in Dubai at one of the world's great camel dairies, known as Camelicious. So camel milk, we'll start with the food here. It's a food health connection, obviously. It's a small but growing health food industry. Potential $1.2 billion industry in the next 10 years, according to the FAO. Very fast growing in terms of a livestock animal. The demand, as my colleague Dr. Ilse will say, has been rising a lot due to autism and other health consumers. Plus, generally, there's interest in this from the Muslim meat and milk markets in different parts of the world. It's not really supported by most governments yet. Things maybe will change, we hope. When I started this, there were only a few world dairies, and of course there are many pastoral people, but not that many dairies. Now there are many more around the world. 3 million tons of camel milk are officially sold, but 70% is consumed by the owners and never reaches the market. And of course, one dubious mark of success is fake or adulterated milk is starting to appear. And more studies are emerging, quite a few. I mean, when I started this, when I had my idea that it would help autism, there was nothing. And now it's just so different in a lot of other health situations too. So camelids demonstrate the scientific value of pastoralists for a lot of reasons. Camels are unique. In the interest of time, we can't go into all their amazing qualities. But just as an example, lately, Cormac and Fifi, they are camelids, which camels are part of the camelid family, and their antibodies are very promising for COVID use. So, and I've actually had some discussion with people that are been working on that, and I really hope that the funding on that continues. Now, this is one example of kind of a case report, I'll call it. This is a woman that I know. She's a camelier. She's very well known because she helps in natural disasters. She was recently diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. So she was put on all these drugs, pharmaceutical drugs, which made her feel very ill. So she thought, I'll try camel milk. The frozen helped, which is what a lot of us use, but not enough because most of us don't have access to raw, fresh, or very safe, good camel milk. And so she bought her own camels. She took 16 ounces a day for 6 months, stopped the insulin, stopped the Trulicity. Her A1C, which is a measurement of diabetes health, dropped to 5.5 on camel milk and metformin. Generally, they like to be under like 6 or so. And her blood sugar drops after she has the fresh camel milk, and the pain in her hands has stopped too. Donkeys. They're also a highly challenged pastoralist asset. I never intended to get into camels, let alone donkeys. However, one has led to the other, and donkey milk is really amazing. It's been used medicinally since ancient times. Perhaps some of those of you in Europe know that. The Romans used it reportedly. It has very similar qualities to camel milk: anti-tumor, antibacterial, antiviral, etc. It's helping infants and people with PANS and PANDAS. A lot of children on the autism spectrum that have this PANS, PANDAS challenging kind of neuropsychiatric, biologically driven behavior. The donkey milk is helping them. But it's really sad what's happening, because the demand, especially from China, for the meat, hides, and medicinal products are equaling catastrophic slaughter. In Kenya, 800,000 donkeys in 3 years are gone, and it may be pretty much diminished as a species in Kenya by 2023. So this is another very challenged pastoralist asset that I'd like to see more protection for. And of course, in India, they have donkey pastoralists. They're declining for the same reasons as camel milk. The herders are older, the grazing challenges, things like that, and very, very low dairy output. They don't give a lot of milk, but it's potentially very valuable. So like, here's a bottle I found for sale there. And of course, then you have your other things that can boost the prospects of pastoralists and nomadic folks. The traditional fabrics, handicrafts, soaps, cosmetics. A lot of people like to make soap out of their donkey milk, camel milk, goat milk. So, I mean, that has exploded a lot recently. I even see that over here, donkey and camel milk soap. And then, of course, you have like the beautiful hand-woven camel it's kind of a blanket with a hole in the middle that the women make in India. That's my friend Netha Raika over there. And these are sheep woolens that are being scarves that are being made in Bikaner, India, on the right. So then there's also entertainment, tourism, racing, fairs and festivals, milking contests, rides and treks. And some people just want to spend time with the animals. This is in Texas. This is Doug Baum. I've written about him in Camel Crazy, as well as other people, and including Dr. Ilsa and also Dr. Razik, who's I think presenting later today. But Doug actually has tourists come in and camel handlers too, so he does both. So this is just an example of the U.S. Amish Mennonite farm family. That's Marlon Troyer. The Troyer family milks 7 camels on 70 acres. However, they probably have more than that now. And they have that very farm-focused, low-tech, pastoral-style culture that really values animals and that lifestyle. So pastoralist and nomadic wisdom is really worth saving. Livestock has been the backbone of society. Camels and cattle form the wealth, status, and trading ability of many cultures, and their lifestyles can benefit us all, even if we just get a small piece of it. Sudanese camels grazing on rich natural pasture have approved omega-3s and offer human health benefits in the study. And as Dr. Ilsa referred to before, the animal-soil interactions and droppings can improve the habitat of smaller species, seed spreading, things like that. Now, this is a picture of the Lahaween tribe on the move after the rainy season. This is a very recent picture, and it's just amazing to me that there are so many great cultures out there doing incredible things, and very few people know about it. Just quickly, I'll introduce you to Sidi Amar. He's a Tuareg nomadic camel herder from Niger. He lives here, he trains camels, he can sleep anywhere, adjust to any social group. He understands animals like there's no tomorrow. He was born in a camel caravan. He didn't have shoes until he was 16. And he is just a person that exemplifies many great traits of nomadic life. He says, if I knew then what I know now, I would be a nomad back home raising my camels. Everyone can benefit from pastoralist ways. So this is part of the messaging I'd like to see get out there. Societies are healthier with outdoor interaction. Nature helps us, enriches our microbiomes, which of course there's a gut-brain connection, and can produce healthier children when we're speaking about pregnancy. And so it's very important to kind of live as naturally as you can when you're going to be having children, because that decreases the risk of certain developmental disorders. Exposure to dirt, animals, sun, and plants increases immune function. Teach children to be comfortable with nature. That's very important. And echoing nomadic traditions increases skills and self-sufficiency. Much better for children and people to learn how to do for themselves than to just open a plastic package for the 10th time that day. You know, learn how to actually do something, and then things will be better for you and your self-esteem and for our health of our world. I also believe engaging with people from other ways of life strengthens our world and creates courtesy and respect. And for people that are involved with children and yourself, schedule these opportunities or they probably will get over.
And you are muted again. You are muted again. Yeah, now it's okay.
Thank you. Thank you. So engagement with nature is valuable. We've already talked about that. But as far as our talk here with pastoralist nomadic people, there was a study that showed nomadic children had better health than settled children. And Somali seniors said they never saw children who could not sit still or learn that had things like autism, ADHD back in their home place in Somalia. They retain the wisdom of that pastoral way of life. And I consider them a human genetic legacy. And if we could utilize their knowledge through their traditions, then we could benefit. So as we know, pastoralists and nomadic people need help. There's a low demand for draft animals, water, grazing rights, disinterest from youth, all these kind of things. The loss of grazing increases camel illness and mange. There's always the challenge of the transportation of camel milk in these dry, arid countries. That is very challenging. Dr. Ilse has dealt with this on a regular basis. Belief systems in government do not overall support camel milk sales. Slowly that's changing. It's going to be a reach, but I think some of our Middle Eastern countries are doing better with that. US pastoralists are not nomads and they share the similar challenge. I'm talking about the Amish people and people like that now, Mennonite people. Excessive milk regulations are very burdensome on them and on some of the other pastoralist people. And of course, COVID now, they need outreach to maintain their healthy status. And some of them have been really hurt by the lack of opportunities in COVID. This is just some posters that were put out by Advic. It's a camel milk company in India. I think that's really nice to put out graphics like that. June 22nd is always World Camel Day. You can remember that. And of course, pastoralists and rangeland need peace and development. Personally, I like to say that I'd like to make safe zones between borders and cultures so that camel milk can come through and help children and sick people. And to remember the nomadic tradition of giving camel milk for free. I know that's a tough challenge because it's expensive to make and produce, but if the government could do this by sort of underwriting the milk and the herders, that would be really great. Early stage science funding is needed for pastoral resources. And then Mongolia gives us a very good example for rangeland health. They have very wide intact rangelands, and they have a lot of Bactrian camels there, and they're being used increasingly in textiles, fashion, products for their international market. They have this project called Green Gold, and they have 21 herder groups, and they've instituted this code of practices. So the responsible nomads tracking system, it standardizes the steps for the sustainability, and they have this database. So it will make sure that all the herders do these things that protect wildlife, habitats, rare plants, and increases household and female income, which is also common in camel cultures. So I think that's a very good role model, what's going on with Green Gold in Mongolia. The next generation needs exposure to pastoralists and biodiversity as well. Otherwise, they are becoming increasingly separated from animals. This is Truman the camel. He goes around in America with this owner and helps raise awareness. He also has helped raise money for a little girl in Pakistan that has autism and is deaf. And I worked with his owner, Debbie, and we have been able to raise some money, mostly due to her hard work and then some coordination from me for the little girl to get tested for her hearing aids and autism. So it's a success that camel pastoralists are gaining ground because since I began, it was something that no one had ever heard of. Now thousands are using it for the milk. New research is continuing. New companies are distributing camel milk in many countries. There's new ones coming online all the time. And my dream of universal access to camel milk is coming true. And these are just some media examples of some things that I've been involved in. So then I wrote this book called Camel Crazy. Part of my goal was really to tell the amazing story of all the camel layers, the camel cultures, the milk, the science, and everything about it. It was to put all that information in one place to help families, but also to raise the profile of pastoral and nomadic people and camels. So it will give you anything you want to know about camel milk, how to use it, how it works, where to get it, all that kind of stuff. And it also won a book award. So I attribute a lot of that to the incredible people that are in this book. So let's keep connected. Let's keep pastoral awareness going. You can definitely find the book if you want anywhere, but then I would love to hear from you for myself. And so those are just my socials. So I would really be happy to keep in touch, and I'll be looking at the chat. I think I'm probably out of time. And anyway, so what is that?
We have enough time, please, you can continue. And I also request Dr. Ilse to intervene in between if you have opportunity. Sir, please go ahead, no problem.
Thank you. Well, Dr. Ilse and I have been lucky to be involved in a few things together, and so I'm very pleased about that. I'm going to look at the chat here too and see if there's anything. Yeah, slide presentations. Okay, I believe that my slides will be available later. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Yeah, I don't see any particular questions for me, but my email is actually incorrect on that. There must have just been a little typo there. That's not my email. But if you want to write me, then please get him on my social, and then I can share it with you. I don't really like putting my email out in public because I get a lot of emails already, but it will be available to you at the school for anybody who would like it. Yeah. Dr. Ilse, you want to chat? You want to jump in on here? Dr. Ilse actually was so kind to be the questioner. I was doing that with ICO. They were doing a series of symposiums, and their second one was on Camel Crazy and myself. And Dr. Ilse kindly came in as the questioner host, and she always does a fantastic job. So I'm glad to be here with her again today.
Yes, thank you, Christina, for talking so much about camels. And yes, I mean the camel is an amazing resource, and it's a non-Western domestic animal. It's not like the sheep, goat, cattle, and pigs. It comes from the mostly from the Arab culture, and so it was very. It has been spared a lot of that scientific attention, which actually, so it's not yet kept in industrial systems, and it's pastoralists to keep most of the camels, and we need to make sure in the future that camel dairy doesn't fall into that trap of also becoming industrialized. We need to develop a camel dairy sector that benefits the pastoralists themselves rather than any corporations or so. So that's the big challenge we're facing.
Yes, another interesting part of that is camels. When I started this, I talk about it in the book. I went to our first kind of camel meeting here in America, and there were some investors from Beverly Hills coming in, and they came, they saw, they left quickly because they had kind of learned that you can't scale camel milk on a giant scale enough for them to put their money in and yank out a lot of it very quickly. So it's really kind of a labor of love. It's economically, it's kind of a challenge to scale, I think, and be profitable. Our farmers here, though, in America are doing quite well. Again, it's a very small industry, but our largest farmer, I'm not sure how many he has now. Last time I checked, he had about 140 camels. He probably has more now. But that's considered a large farm here. And the demand a lot is seasonal in America because
India is actually the only country where the camel population is going down, where the camel is very threatened, and this has become a big issue now here in Rajasthan, and it's being discussed in the Legislative Assembly in the Vidya Bhavan, what kind of measures to take. And we've been suggesting, invest infrastructure into camel dairying, set up a network of small decentralized dairies throughout the camel breeding areas. And unfortunately, again, I mean, this approach is taken now. We're going to, the thing is, in India, camels cannot be slaughtered. So they were earlier used only for transportation. And then when that purpose went away because of mechanization, etc. There was actually no more rationale for keeping camel, and that's why it's becoming extinct, because they can't be used for meat, and there's no infrastructure to develop the dairy. So we are really hoping that somebody will recognize the value of the camel for nutrition. I mean, for diabetes patients, for autistic children, for tuberculosis patients. And we're actually at the moment providing camel milk for free to a school and to poor tribal children from from poor backgrounds, as well as some tuberculosis patients, and the effects are really enormous. So we're hoping that the camel conservation, which is a state animal of Rajasthan, that can be linked actually to public health. If there was a way of distributing camel milk also to pregnant mothers and lactating mothers, because it has very high vitamin C and iron content, it's the ideal remedy for anemia, which is so widespread. So yes, anybody who listens.
Yeah.
Really needs
Dr.
support for the camel, in Rajasthan. Now, to put it on the right track, the government has realized that there's a problem, and we're just hoping it will take the right steps now.
Well, your tireless work has been a key part of this, and I really do believe that dairy is a kind of a hope for camels and donkeys, because they're so challenged in other ways. And as far as the sustainability, it is kind of nice to see the camel industry in a way is very hands-on. I mean, the people here, and I know, of course, in a lot of the pastoralist cultures, but even people here that have big farmhouse and a big farm property, they're very settled. They're not, nomadic. The camels live outside their window. The camels live around them. They can hear them at night. They're taking care of them constantly. So it's sustainable. It's low. It's not like there's a factory there or anything. It's a very hands-on thing. So I think that's a wonderful thing. And then also we mustn't forget climate change, because the camel, it may not give as much milk, but what it does give is a powerhouse. And then of course it doesn't impact the environment nearly as much, and it takes a lot less water than cows do, like a huge amount. So I think that there is really, you cannot really say much bad about the camel. Now, I will point out that in Australia, unfortunately, camels and donkeys are still being killed officially. I know they cause some damage to some of the land there, but the camels do, but that's really because they're not really utilized as a resource. And water is also an increasing, global problem. So to have an animal that takes less water is so survivable is a great thing. And I guess for one of the last things I would say is that the camel and the camel lids have incredible science value, that even though I'm starting to see progress that's amazing in a short time, there's so much more to go. There is so much to this animal and to camel lids and to some of our other pastoralist animals that's just been completely unexamined by science. It may not be the most profitable, but it may be the most beneficial.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you so much. Thank you for your wonderful and amazing presentation. It was very informative, and you will find many comments in the chat box that appreciated your presentation. And the most amazing part was that your real life experiment, and it was great part of this presentation. And it is very great to hear that your son, after all, returned to the school. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for your nice presentation. I would like to invite